Here's Noah.
Well, what I love about all of Sturgis's movies are the ensemble cast that he uses in pretty much everything. I mean, each time you watch one, there's that kind of comforting feeling of first sighting, you know, who they're playing in this one. And they usually form a kind of family around the two lead characters.
And here's Christopher Guest.
In the 30s and 40s, certainly there were stock companies at various studios, and certain directors, Capra was one, and Sturgis used the actors that they felt comfortable with in the supporting roles, and sometimes even as the stars. And I think it creates a level of comfort with the audience, and it starts to blend into the style of the writing, and it becomes one when it's successful. People expect to see those actors, those faces and the voices, and it becomes seamless. You hear the voice that the writer creates, and then they're spoken by people that you like to see and are familiar with. And I think that's one of the ingredients that makes it so attractive.
It's kind of a nice little moment there. Two girls in the shower. What's not to like?
What I like about the way Sturgis sort of shows Hollywood and shows sort of Sullivan's life is that familial aspect of it. I like, you know, everybody we get to meet, even the crazy sisters, and everybody is so likable, even though they may pose an obstacle to Sullivan. But you also have a feeling that Sullivan needs them because they sort of undercut his self-importance. You know, I think probably that's true today for most successful Hollywood relationships, is that people sort of surround themselves with surrogate family.
Well, here again's another situation where Sturgis, through his own life and a number of brushes with failure and poverty, really empathizes with the audience's kind of negative stereotypes of what a real Hollywood director must be. And he does a nice little trick of making him kind of sick and a little childlike and fairly powerless, but still dogged, pretentious, and stupid in his pursuit of finding out what real poverty means. And in fact, he gets the audience's enthusiastic support to take the hero a little further along the road of humiliation. Let him, he hasn't learned his lesson yet. This guy's got more to learn yet.
Maybe there's a universal law that says, stay put. As you are, so shall you remain. Maybe that's why tramps are always in trouble.
He doesn't know it, but what he's really saying is that as long as you remember that this is where you belong, that's what brings you back, even if it seems like it's by accident. And it's only when he really lost his memory, when he loses his, I don't want to give away the story if you're watching for the first, well, if you're watching for the first time, you're not listening to me. But when he does lose his way, literally lose his way, and literally lose all of his options, that's when he really feels the hurt. Because he doesn't have that. His identity as an artist, this is Sullivan we're talking about, his identity as an artist is what gives him his purpose for being there. And it's only when he forgets that he has the experience, at least close to the experience, that he needs to have. You see, there she is. See how much more serious this hat is? It's kind of like the clowning is over. And now we're casting those shadows. You could almost imagine the narrator stepping in. There are moments that just don't belong in a comedy, you know, but that's what they're doing there, I guess. We're kind of where they are, and we are watching their shadow pass through the hobo jungles and the back alleys, which is kind of what they're doing. They're kind of not really there. It's their last shot as observers. And this guy's interesting too, because he's, in a way, he's the same kind of dilettante on a much smaller scale. He's the guy who's taking these pictures and selling them. That's his living. And this little play is sort of, it's funny unless it's happening to you, which can be said to be, you know, one of the themes here, as well as it's painful. You know, you can appreciate somebody else's pain even without laughing at it. You experience it a certain way. You can't experience it from the inside. Now they come close on this one, but he still doesn't lose himself. He still doesn't lose that distance. He had great hair, though. I mean, he was a really good actor, but this time I was just marveling at his hair. It's just so, I think he probably had it till the day he died, one of those guys. I also think it's interesting that we hear trumpets and stuff when we see the white preacher, and then later we actually hear what the black preacher has to say. And yet it's not a put down. It's not like, listening to Charlie Brown's mother with the trumpet. It's all part of this. I really wonder what he would have been like if he had been born, say, 20 years earlier, if he had made his fortune in silent Hollywood. Because a lot of his films, a lot of long sequences like this, and also the kind of the tie-up sequence at the end of this film, as well as the opening sequence in Palm Beach Story, there are a lot of cases where there are no words. And he's making it with the picture, and he's making it with the music and the faces more than anything else.
Yeah, hi, it's Ken again. Everyone always talks about Sturges as a screenwriter with the emphasis on his brilliant dialogue. But I think in this film, you see from its literal opening of a book into the end of a film within a film, to his long single-take sequence, through the sustained slapstick moments, and then finally to these haunting faces, and his main character's arrival, literally and visually, amongst the huddled masses. Sturges makes Sullivan's Travels a visual tour de force of cinematic storytelling. This man could not only write dialogue, he could tell stories with pictures, and quite effectively. Yes, Sturges was a screenwriter, but one, he'd come from the stage where he'd been involved in the producing of plays and standing there every day with the director, working with the actors. It was something he was comfortable with. He rewrote his scripts for these plays on the spot for the actors. He liked actors. He was comfortable with them. He empathized with them. In addition, almost immediately upon his arrival in Hollywood, he was very much like Orson Welles. He loved the gadgetry and gimmickry of making a movie. He was absolutely enthralled by it. And most of the time he was on most of these lots, he was spending an enormous amount of time on the sets of other directors, watching them work. And people didn't mind because he was like a kid. Oh, my God, look what you can – wow, you can do that with a crane and you can do this with a thing. And so when he gets to his first picture, The Great McGinty, he just loves it. He has the enthusiasm, as Wells would say, of a kid with an erector set. He's just having the best time of his life. So, and you find that quality actually in a number of directors, a kind of love of gadgets and gimmicks, and that extends obviously into lenses and sound gear and whatever it is involved in the apparatus of making a film.
I remember seeing these guys in cartoons, seeing the Sandwich Men, and asking my mother if such a thing actually existed. I thought this has got to be the lowest. And I thought, what do you mean they get paid to walk around like that? And they're called Sandwich Men.
Okay, here's a heads up. You have to watch closely, but if you look on the upper part of your screen, you'll see there's a pair of legs hanging down from a tree. There's no explanation for what they are, why they're there, but it's quite wonderful. It's the way he kind of undercuts his own sentimental behavior. He knows enough that you gotta make fun of it. The audience is in a war by this point when this film was made, and it's okay to be sentimental, but you have to understand the irony. I think Sturges introduces into American films a level of irony that had not existed before. And it was an irony wrapped in a real feeling for the characters in his films, for the oddball, for the eccentric, for the loser, if you will. He could make fun of them and celebrate them at exactly the same moment.